another episode of the 1372 show. The QB and the OG, TJ Downing here live at Harmons Pub. Shout out to Tim Roop having us here today. And great to have our friends on, our proud partners at CH Vallos and Associates, Jim and Chris Vallos joining us, and their intern Zoe. And they talked, as I lead into my next guest here, about being proud partners of themselves with different fundraisers, benefits, events, charities around the community, not just North Canton, but within Stark County. And one of those being the Patriot Project. And we actually have ourselves a proud veteran here with me now, man, my good friend Rick Jacobson. I appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing some stories with us here. You know, it's kind of special for us here at the 1372 show. We got our start over at the Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls. And you have a lot of history over there, my man. You were, I believe, 15 years, you were the head of security for the Enshrinement Festival.
The thing that changed a lot, I think, with the Hall of Fame as we went through the 9/11, you know, our volunteers, we had no radios. We had no form of communication other than you get in a golf cart and you'd ride over to see somebody. You know, when I got involved, you know, we had to get radios for first aid, for security, for various things in contact with the Sheriff's Department. We didn't have that stuff at the time, which brings me to the point of a good story that was very valuable to have at, you know, at that point was with Jerry Rice. We had a situation with him at the Hall of Fame where they started doing, I think it was practice sessions with the teams that were going to be playing that week, and they would come to the stadium and do it the night before. Well, Jerry Rice was, you know, being brought into the Hall of Fame at that time, and we had him up at the stadium watching some of the players, and we decided he had to go back to the hall, and it was extremely crowded. Extremely crowded. We had no issue for a short distance leaving the stadium, but once we got to the hall, there were just people everywhere down the streets in front of the Hall of Fame. So I called the Sheriff's Department. I asked them, I says, you're going to have to bring a couple horses down here. So next thing I know, horses are there. We lead Jerry Rice, you know, in the golf cart. We had him, and we're getting over towards the hall. And as we get there, just people everywhere. And the horses, God bless them, they just sort of parted the people as we got closer. Well, we got in front of the steps of the Hall of Fame. And there were a couple guys up on top, besides a whole bunch of other people standing in front of the doors. And the one guy shouts out, he said, what's these horses going to do, come up the steps and move us? And those guy never, just as soon as he got those words out of his mouth, both those horses climbed up those steps. And people were jumping over people to get out of the place. And Jerry Rice looked at me and he goes, boy, I'd love to have them on my line any day of the week. He said, I've never seen a crowd move so fast in all my life, he said, but the horses did their job. I did get called on the carpet on that, but the horses did what they were trained to do. So.
Well, now you have one of your legendary horses here. You talk about some of those legendary 49ers like Jerry Rice. We got a Super Bowl champ in the house, my dad, Walt Downing, joining us on the 1372 show. And you know, how special for you guys when you first met to be able to have a guy who played 7 years of professional football on your staff working these events. I'm sure having a figure like that probably made some of the guys coming into town just it felt like they were right in the locker room and felt right at home.
He, you know, your dad, he definitely blended right in with all the events and everything that took place. He scared the heck out of me when I first met him, though, I got to admit. Walt, you really want to do this? And he said, yeah, definitely. And I said, all right, well, look, you can't be out with all your buddies that come in that you haven't seen for a long time. I just want to do it. I'm not going to disappoint you. So getting to the end of the story, I got him working at the hotel downtown. And he's working the front doors on that, getting people in and out of the cars. And Coach Walsh came in.
Bill came in and
and he asked your dad to go have a drink with him. And I'm going, oh, here we go, you know. And your dad looked at his watch and he says, Coach, I'm going to be off duty in about 35 minutes. He says, I can meet you then. He says, I can't leave the door now. So,
I mean, people have no idea about how many of the volunteers come forward to make this all happen the right way.
You're right.
And you coordinated this thing extremely well. And I remember Bill came in that day, and I said, well, I'm about a half hour. And he goes, there's some people that came up, and they go, hey, can I have your autograph? And they were doing that to Bill, and Bill goes, hey, you need to get this guy's autograph. This is a great player, a Super Bowl champion player, and you need to get his thing. And but I'm working that. So, I mean, it was just Bill was good and gracious.
Shout out our partners all the time at the Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls, for all that they do for us here on the 1372 show. Also, our friends over at the NFL Alumni Association. We couldn't do this without them. Rick Jacobson joining us. We appreciate everything that you brought to us, what you've done for the city, what you've done for the Hall of Fame, the community, and obviously your relationship with my dad has trickled over, and the relationship that you and I have between ourselves has always been special. So I appreciate everything, my man. And Dad, I mean, it's interesting that as you come on to his staff and you're working it, you get a guy like Fred Dean, who all those years in training camp and practices that you guys are right in the thick of things, and God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, but one of the legendary Hall of Famers, Fred Dean, number 74. I know how much respect you have for him. How was that experience for you all those years later, after being done, and all those dog days out on the field going against him, to see him have that honor and for you to be able to be there and kind of share in it with him?
Well, let me say one thing here real quick. Rick brought so much to the table with these people, and was allowing me to have some extra time to be able to interact with these people. And Fred Dean was one of my great friends, and was one of the greatest players I ever met of all time. And unfortunately, Freddie passed away this past year, and COVID and some things, and I miss some of those players so dearly. They were such great players. I mean, the memories and the stories that I can remember. There was one time in practice at San Francisco where they had a TX stunt on the defensive line, and I'm at center, and I'm looking at the backside linebacker, and next thing I know, I see the tackle or the defensive end, Freddie Dean, come inside, and I popped him. I popped him good. And he jumped back, and he looked at me, and he says, Walt, don't you ever do that again, mother. And he says, don't you ever do that again. I seen him take the center from the Dallas Cowboys, run him over on a TX stunt, and blew the guy's knee out and sacked Danny White. And so I knew, hey, I'm sitting in that same situation that Freddie was. He looked at me and he says, I ain't going to do what I did to them, but don't you mess with me, Walt. So, I mean, great memories and stories with so many great players. It was a fantastic, I've had a fantastic career. And as you know, when I'm past, I pass things on to my son, TJ, here, and he's doing a great job, and love them all that much more.
1372 show here live at Harmons Pub. Appreciate my dad, Walt Downing, joining us. All right, real quick. You talked about Fred Dean going against the offensive lineman from Dallas, taking down Danny White. Compare Fred Dean as you go against a guy like Randy White. Okay, one of the baddest, right? What they call him, the manster, half man, half monster. You know, two legendary Pro Football Hall of Famers, Fred Dean, Randy White. Kind of compare them. You saw one in practice. You went head-to-head with another in a game. How were their games similar? What was different about them?
All right. They both were so highly competitive just in their nature. They wouldn't accept losing to anybody across from them. They dominated their space. And when you're on a football field, you have a space. When I was at center and playing, I knew I had a 5x5 box that I needed to dominate. And you take care of business in that box, and it goes beyond that. Now with Dallas, with the Manster, Randy White, one of the greatest games I ever saw in my life was when we won the NFC Championship game, and John Ayers, who passed away at 44, and I should say that I got 13 players from my first Super Bowl team that have already passed away, but John Ayers played Randy White to the hilt. Now, for 6 years, I was the backup to both left guard, right guard, and center. So they didn't carry an extra lineman inside, an extra center, an extra guard, and it allowed them to have another player in another position. So for 6 years, I was the backup on 3 of the inside interior guys. So anything happened, I'm in the game. So we're playing Dallas in Arlington, and next thing you know, John Ayers, the left guard, comes out. He's got an ankle sprain. He comes out. They go, Walt, you're in the game. I come in there. It's 3rd and 12. 3rd and 12. You're on the sideline, and you come up and match up against Randy White. What do you do?
Most people would shit their pants.
Yeah, well, I was asking the quarterback, do a 3-step, get this fricker out of here, and do something. I mean, don't put me on an island. And I set up real quick, and I went down and I cut Randy. And next thing I know, the sucker kicked me in the head, and he says, ah! And it was the competitive nature of the game. When I played, so much different than what it is now. The game now, I mean, you got big money, you got guys, you can't beat them up in practice. Hell, I went through 4 weeks of double practices. They don't even let guys in uniforms go back to back in a day. So, and then they protect them. So, I mean, we went through a different stage when I was playing versus what it is now. But both those players, Randy White, Fred Dean, they were just phenomenal.
You talk about putting an all-star defensive line together. I think those guys are, if not starting, they're in the 2 deep, that's for sure. I'll read you a quote from you, man. All right? So I guess since we're father and son, we're kind of right in there, the ESP thing here. Walt Downing, my dad, joining us here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. Shout out to my boy Jim Ballard, down with the sickness, man. Hope you get back up on your feet here soon,
God
partner.
bless, Jim.
Read you a quote from you here, man, as you just mentioned that. My problem being an offensive lineman was non-recognition. I played 5 years as a backup to Fred Quillen, Randy Cross, and John Ayers. Quillen and Cross were in the Pro Bowl that year, and as far as I'm concerned, Ayers is one of the best players in the entire league. All right, you mentioned how tough it is. We know playing a backup role to be able to come in there in the game and, you know, you've been standing, you're trying to stay loose. It could be cold weather. You're lucky you're on the West Coast, but you don't know where you're at playing around the country. Not an easy thing to do. You mentioned John Ayers, you know, and you know some of these guys that you played with. We'll shout out Fred Quillen that we just talked about. Him and John have both passed. I believe Keith Farnhorse has also passed.
Correct.
So prayers to them, their family, shouting out those guys. I know the stories and the battles that you went through with them. Some of the pictures you can see here at Harmons Pub with Dad out there hanging with the guys on the sideline, kind of leading them, instructing them, and getting out there. I get some pictures in here, some legendary pictures inside of Harmons Pub. So as we're here on the live show, as we continue to roll along, John Ayers, you mentioned coming in as a backup. How about a guy like him who was a starting guard and in an NFC divisional game against the Giants and another legendary Pro Football Hall of Famer in Lawrence Taylor, And Ayers, I'm not sure who it was that went down. Don't know if you can remember, but he had to pop out to tackle, and that wasn't his normal spot. To be able to do something like that, John's not in the Hall of Fame. John's no longer with us. But that, to me, right there, and I know the respect you have for him, that is, as far as alignment goes, an iconic moment in NFL history. Talk about it.
Let me tell you something. John Ayers was not an all-pro, prolific guy that had total notoriety. But I guarantee you he was one of the baddest bad boys that I ever played with. What a great guy. I love this guy. And what he did in shutting down Randy White and some of these other high-level studs, he was just a pillar at left guard. And we played the Giants, and we're on Monday Night Football, and we're going against the Giants' 34 front defense that was prolific at that time frame. And Lawrence Taylor was on the outside linebacker position. And I'll tell you what, John, or our left guard, myself and John, had to do a double read. We had the inside linebacker maybe chip off the offensive tackle if he got beat. But, I mean, you got the outside linebacker, and that was Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence was coming in. John set out on him and stalemated him so many times in the second half of the game. In the NFC divisional playoff game, John set out, and Lawrence was coming in, the most disruptive, great defensive end in the game, linebacker.
Some people may consider him the greatest defensive player ever.
Ever. He turned around when he saw John come out. He turned around and went into coverage.
Wow.
Yeah,
How many people can say that they did that to LT?
He turned LT around. And not even hitting him, LT didn't even pursue the quarterback, and he went back into coverage. I was blown away. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I played with some great guys, and unfortunately, we've lost a few. But John was one of he's a guy that I'm going to take to my grave and remember as a great, not only a great person or a great player, but a great person. I loved him to death, and he's left his wife and kids behind. And but, we all move on, and we got to do what we got to do. And that's where it comes further with me now and seeing the accomplishments of my son, TJ.
Nice.
And what he's doing. And, I always had a little vocal. I was rather loquacious at times. And, this is carried over, and my son has carried it over even more. I'm so proud of what he's doing right now, being with the NFL Alumni Association and doing his individual broadcast, etc. And he does a great job with the games. He's knowledgeable. He's studious. And I couldn't be more proud of him. And I'm just proud as a father to be here talking about my son and being on this show. And I thank you.
As we're shouting out the NFL Alumni Association, it starts with our guy Bart Oates, president of the NFL Alumni Association.
Bart's a friend of mine.
We appreciate everything that he's done for us here on the show. We know what he did in the trenches for all those years for the Giants, winning 2 Super Bowls. He signs on with the 49ers. He gets a third one. Bart Oates is our guy, and I know he can appreciate everything that you're saying here about the game, in the trenches, in that box. Okay, let's take it back a step here. You get drafted in the second round, 49th pick, 41st? 34th overall pick. You actually thought you were going to get drafted by the New York Giants. It didn't work out that way.
It's still why I hate the Giants. I still hate the Giants. I hate them. these guys told me they're taking me in the first round to be their starting center. And the first round when goes by, I'm in my apartment with all these people there, and next thing I know, the first round's over. And so I'm going, and they're going like, Walt, what's up?
Still here.
I go, well, tap the keg. tap the keg, baby, because we're in the second round. And so then a couple phone calls went by. Next thing you know, hey, I got these people picked up the phone. They go, hey, Walt, I got a phone call for you. I pick it up and I say, hello? And they go, yeah, Walt, this is Pete McCulley from the San Francisco 49ers. We just drafted you. I'm going like, hey, don't be jiving me. Get the hell off of this phone. I'm waiting for a phone call. I hung up on him. Next thing you know, about 5 minutes later, I get another phone call. Hey, Walt, this is Joe Thomas, general manager of the 49ers. We just drafted you. I'm going, hey, I don't know who's pranking these calls, but this is bullshit. I said, stop it. And I hung up on him. Next thing you know, I get a phone call, and it's the 49ers. They go, Walt, listen, don't hang up. We really did draft you. I'm going, well, where the hell you guys been? I said, Giants were going to, and the Redskins were interested in me and stuff. And they go, well, we took you, and now we're going to fly you out to San Francisco. One of the most amazing careers that I could imagine. My first 2 years with San Francisco, my first year we went 2 wins, 14 losses. My second year they brought in Bill Walsh and Eddie DeBartolo bought the team, which changed everything. Eddie DeBartolo is the greatest owner of all times. Eddie bought the team, and we went 2-14 that year. And that's when we drafted Joe Montana and a bunch of great people, even though I was the great draft pick the year before. But he went 2-14 my second year. My third year, we went 9-7. And my fourth year, we went 13-3 to win the Super Bowl. What a transition that you could imagine.
It's one of the greatest in NFL history.
One of the greatest of all time.
And what that produced with the dynasty of the 80s.
And what it produced with the dynasty of the 80s. And the Niners, 4 Super Bowls in the 80s, one in 1995 against Denver. We had such a camaraderie of great players. The thing that's changed the game a lot is that free agency has made it a one-on-one game in so many ways. When I played, it was about the team.
Yeah.
And Bo Schembechler used to preach that about the team, the team, the team. And when I was early years with the 49ers, I was best friends with the defensive backs. Who does that?
One of them happened to be a guy that you were captain with at Michigan, and Dwight Hicks.
It's a brother from another mother.
Yep.
Dwight Hicks.
East Coast boys. Dwight
Hicks and I were the 2 top recruits out of the East Coast. Jimmy Cefalo from Wilkes-Barre, Pocono region. Dwight Hicks from Pennsauken, and me from Coatesville, Pennsylvania. Cash. Coatesville area senior high school. Cash. It was just we were Dwight and I ended up going to Michigan, and ended up being captains. My senior year, I went in front of 105 to 110,000 people every week, and played in 1 Orange Bowl and 2 Big championships in the Rose Bowl. And I'll tell you what a fabulous college activity. Dwight Hicks, was with me with the 49ers, and everything really turned out really special. I had you, and we lived out on the West Coast, and I'm sitting here today admiring my son and our accomplishments that we were able to garner.
It's interesting you talk about a crowd of that size. I was fortunate enough to play down in the Horseshoe, playing a big house in front of 100, 110,000 people. You don't even have crowds that size when you got into the NFL. And you kind of came into the NFL at a time where you think right before you, it's kind of like the pioneer days. You had the merger in 69, 70. You get drafted in 78. The NFL is kind of taking off full force, and what it did in the 80s catapulted into the 90s as the biggest thing in the world, and it's grown from there. It's the biggest sporting industry in the world. As we shout out a good friend of ours here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG, and OT, your boy, shameless plug here right now, Mike Ken joined us on the show. Maybe that was him who was pranking you. You thought it was the 49ers. He went off the board with the 13th pick in the first round. Maybe it was Mike Ken. He was.
Let me tell you something. With that offensive line that we had at Michigan, Billy Dufek at right tackle was an All-American. Mark Donahue was the left guard. He was an three-time All-American.
I believe drafted to the Seahawks.
He went to Cincinnati.
Cincinnati?
Yeah, and I was the greatest center of all time.
Exactly. Should be another shameless plug here before we get to the Mike Ken one. You should be in the Michigan Hall of Fame.
Hey,
we'll make that happen one day.
Mike Ken was all Big Ten at left tackle. We had a great offensive line. And Mike Ken got drafted 13th in the first round, played 17 years. The man should be in the Hall of Fame.
Has to be.
Should be.
We gotta make it happen.
If not, Mike Ken he's one of the greatest players that I ever played with. He was called Spider-Man.
Yep.
He was 6'8", and he didn't have a ton of weight, but
he got to you
had
guys
the arms.
He got to you guys in 74, 75, and he was a beanpole, man. Once he filled out.
Well, when he came to Michigan, he was 195 pounds at 6'7", 6'8". He was an All-American lacrosse player. He could have gone to any college playing lacrosse. And he comes to Michigan. Next thing you know, 50 pounds later, he's the #1 draft pick, and he plays 17 years in the NFL.
And as he told us here on the 1372 show, working out, and if I get this wrong, I know he's going to be upset with me. I was just texting him last night talking about Jerry Glanville. I believe it was Sergio Olivo, who was an all-world renowned bodybuilder who he got with in the offseason in Chicago, and he put 50 pounds on. He comes back, and he says, Bo's looking at him like, Ken, is that you? And you're like, okay, yeah, we want this guy at tackle. You talk about John Ayers locking people down. Mike Ken locked down guys like Bruce Smith.
Yes. Okay.
Guys like Lawrence Taylor. Guys like Richard Dent. The best of the best on the defensive line ever to play the game.
Yes. Now let me extend this a little bit further. Michigan has had two of the greatest offensive tackles at left tackle in the game. Mike Ken and John Giesler.
Miami Dolphin legend.
John Giesler was in a first-round draft pick by the Miami Dolphins. He was Dan Marino's left side tackle for 14 years. He still holds the record for not giving up a pressure or a sack in 39 direct quarters.
Wow.
He made 7 or 8 Pro Bowls. 14 years. Mike Ken, 17 years. Dude, these guys are the greatest players I ever played with, and why are they not in the Hall of Fame?
My dad, Walt Downing, joining us here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. Hey, we're obviously giving the plug here. Our friends over at the Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls, they know where we stand on this. We're talking to our other friends right there on the grounds, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You got to get it done. You talk about numbers, you talk about legendary stats. You blew my mind there, but I didn't jump on loquacious. You can't get me to jump on that anymore, but you're talking about 39 quarters, and you're protecting a guy like Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That's a stat that will hold up and is a true test of time. And when we've talked to Mike, when we've talked to some of our offensive line friends that have joined the show,
You
another
need
Hall
to
of
talk
Famer
to John Giesler.
like Billy Shaw, the things we talk about, the stats for offensive linemen, they're not really there, right? But things that will hold true and tell you how great a guy was the one you just mentioned there, 39 straight quarters without a pressure or a sack. How about Mike Ken? Nobody in the game outside of Lomas Brown has started more games at offensive tackle than that guy. 251 starts at offensive tackle.
Phenomenal.
That right there is the stat of stat when you talk about offensive linemen. All right, so you finally get there to San Francisco. You ended up making the all-rookie team, the
all-rookie
NFL team, but it wasn't easy, right? So
I had O.J. Simpson in my backfield.
You didn't have.
And you know what? O.J. could only run to the right, and I was at right guard. Okay, and we did a lot of pulling plays. Okay, O.J.
You were busy.
O.J. he tore a knee up the year before, and then he didn't rehab right. He was doing movies.
Yeah.
And so he comes with the Niners, and next thing you know, he can't move to the left. He can only go right. And I'm at right guard. I got pictures. You got one of the pictures of me leading O.J. around the corner. O.J. was a great guy, but a lot
just got off of parole the other day. O.J., man,
hey.
The juice is officially loose.
The juice is loose, baby. Hey, thank God, because I'll tell you what, man, I'm not even going to go there. Don't even want to have an opinion.
No rides in a white Bronco for you?
No, I'm not. I
believe Cower, he was Al Cowan. He was a
Al.
teammate of yours as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, he was a nasty man. I mean, this guy'd slap you upside your head, your ear hole, and he would laugh at you. And I tell you what, you just irritated the living shit out of you. I mean, the guy was just nasty. But he was O.J.'s best friend, and I met a lot of crazy guys in the NFL. I used to have this guy that used to come in, one of the greatest. People say, who is one of the greatest players you ever played against? And I say, there's a guy, his name is Lawrence Pillars, and he was on the same team. And they go, well, what made him so nasty? Well, I said, this guy used to come in the mornings, and he would walk in the locker room 8 a.m., smoking a cool cigarette, and comes down, he would walk, the offense would be on one side of the locker room, defense on the other. He'd come down the offensive line side, and he'd go down there, and he would stop right between all of us, and he'd take a big drag on this cool cigarette, and he goes, you know what, guys? He says, I had a fifth of gin last night. And he says, that little green man is going to mess with you all day long. And take a big drag off that cigarette. That's the type of environment that I grew up in. I mean, I had guys that were scooting drugs and steroids and amphetamines and all this shit. You try to take one, and the guy'd cut your goddamn finger off.
Listen, you're talking about being on the West Coast there. It really was like the wild, wild West.
You guys were
the pioneers of
crazy.
the NFL and the wild, wild West out there on the West Coast. And, hey, we'll shout out another one of your friends there on that defensive line, Dwayne Board, I believe.
Oh.
I don't know if he was if he got the induction or not, but he's on the list for the Black College Football Hall of Fame. Dwayne Board, another guy that I know you have a ton of respect for.
Was one of the most steadiest players that I've ever been around. He was just so consistent, never got beat, and Dwayne ended up coaching afterwards. But what a surreal surreal serenity type of guy that was he was just a beautiful person that you loved. But you wouldn't think of somebody like that that plays defensive end that could be doing such a demonstrous job out there against the offense.
Listen, you guys don't win Super Bowl 16 without Dwayne Board, Fred Dean, Pillars, Hacksaw, Buns, Danny Buns. Probably the greatest goal line stand in Super Bowl history.
Danny Buns.
The greatest tackle, I believe. Was that the fourth down tackle or the third down tackle?
Danny Buns called me a couple weeks ago, and he and I were talking, and Danny had Charles Alexander was the great running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. He goes on a flare out on the right side.
Tough play to defend.
Tough play to defend. All that he had to do was catch the ball, turn, and he was going to be in the end zone. Game over.
Bengals are Super Bowl champs.
Charles caught the pass, and Danny Buns pancaked his butt on the 5-yard line, and it turned into the greatest goal line stand of all time. Hacksaw Reynolds, this is the greatest Super Bowl defensive stand of all times. Pete Johnson from Ohio State was 5 yards in the backfield.
Running behind Anthony
Munoz and some great players. And he comes up into the hole. And it's like you could drive a car through it. In the hole was Hacksaw Reynolds. And Pete Johnson was coming in. Hacksaw dropped him on the 5-yard line and took his butt down. And then we had the great goal line stand with Archie and Danny Buns and my other buddies. Made the greatest goal line stand in Super Bowl history. And then Earl Cooper scored the TV, and we were bound, baby. We were bound.
Listen, trying to stop Pete Johnson in the hole. And shout out to our friends here at Harmons Pub. Heather Howe coming past us here. Stop down and check them out here.
Harmons Pub is a great place. Got great food and great ownership. This is a van. Tim Petrie and Matt and his staff here do nothing but a great job.
Timmy Root, Matt, getting it done.
Timmy Root's the bomb.
Love these guys here at Harmons Pub. 1372 show live here, right here on Tusc at Harmons Pub. The QB and the OG rolling solo today. Got my dad joining me here. All right, quick question. Yes or no answer. Ken Anderson, does he belong in the Hall of Fame?
No.
All right, I like it. All right, so listen, back to where we were at here, making the all-rookie team. It wasn't easy, though. Your team wasn't very good at the time. I remember looking at some pictures there.
I started in Texas Stadium as a rookie against Jethro Pugh at defensive tackle, and the middle linebacker was Leroy Jordan. Now, you younger generation won't know these names. Other people will. And then I started on Monday Night Football against Joe Green, and Jack Lambert was lying behind him without his damn teeth in and looked like Godzilla or Dracula. L.C. Greenwood on the outside, Jack Ham. What the hell was I getting into? I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah, deal with the guy Mendenhall from the New York Giants.
Mendenhall was a stud.
You're kind of going through it here. You're coming in as a rookie. And, we had my good friend Beanie Wells, my tailback on.
Beanie, great running back. Played with Arizona.
Some iconic runs. Check it out on our YouTube page. Check it out on Facebook, social media, Twitter. Appreciate Beanie joining us on the show. And, we kind of talked about the jump from high school to college to the pros. And he mentioned that he felt that high school to college was tougher. When you're playing at Michigan, you're playing at Ohio State, probably 50 to 60% of the guys you face on Saturday on that defense will probably be playing professional football. You know, you're going against a team like Oklahoma. You got Leroy and Dewey Selman, NFL guys. You know, you're playing
17 guys on that team got drafted in the first 5 rounds. Now, what's up with that?
Hacksaw Reynolds. You talked about him. The morning of the Super Bowl, is the story true? Was he taped up at breakfast, ready to go? Already full uniform, cleats, spat?
Cleats, spatted, eye black on. He comes down into the breakfast room with his goddamn helmet. Sucker was off the charts.
All right, listen. So you talked about some of those training camps that you guys went through. I believe, was that up at Rockland?
Rockland College and Sacramento.
You go up there and you got to bang against these guys in those training camps. And I know you talked about how grueling they were. And you know, after that first week of acclimation, you know, you're in there taking a shower and you feel like you got Jello in your brain because you're doing doubles. You got, I believe back then, you had 6 preseason games.
Exactly. Crazy.
You know, but and I know that, you know, we mentioned, you and I, we always like to have fun, and we were kind of more the guys in the locker room that were the first ones to crack a joke when you're out there on the field and everybody's, you know, getting a little bit tight and the pressure's getting to them. We were the guys that could kind of relieve that. Or if you need to start a fire and get everybody going, we were able to do that too. When you see him walk into the breakfast like that, what's going through your mind? I mean, are you laughing inside like this guy right here, man?
You know what? You just hold your breath and say, this dude is serious.
This is a galvanizing moment here.
This is something that is historic in its own way. Hacksaw was an extraordinary type individual. And he just was iconic in regards to what he did. He wasn't a huge physical mass, but he played that middle linebacker position like you couldn't even imagine. His intensity and his drive was just beyond comparison. And they're guys like that. Bigger hearts than they got their body.
And you see some
Bigger
of those,
hearts than they got their body.
You see some of those iconic pictures of Hacksaw, and he's like a coach on the field. He's over there. He's off on the sidelines, and he's drawing on the dry erase board, and he's kind of telling guys what they need to do because, yeah, as a player, some guys just go out there and they play the game. Some guys can go out there and they can read what that offense is doing. Okay, I want you to talk about a guy here. We talked about that little pregame.
Let me just tell
there.
a little something about Hacksaw, though, first. We're in training camp, and I had some pressure on me, and I delivered. I lived up to the high expectations. They brought a guy in, Doug Collins, from the St. Louis Cardinals, to compete against me for the backup position of the guards and center. Well, I come into camp, and I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. And I'm tearing up camp. I'm having it. I'm doing it. Well, we get into a situation where we got a scrimmage on practice, and I've had some great blocks over my career that you remember. And you do the same thing because of what you've been through.
Right.
Okay? I had a block. This was one in practice, not a game. Now, I've had them in the games, but the practice came off. I had a 34 defense. We got the film on the camera. My man Keith Farnhurst, my right guard. Freddie Quillen, my center next to me. I'm a right guard. I got to step to the right side. If the tackle or defensive end comes in, I got to double team him, whatever, and then come up on the linebacker. Well, he never came in, and Hacksaw was trying to fill the hole. I hit him so hard that I'm still amazed that he was able to get up after that. I hit him and took him 5 yards in the air and pancaked his ass. And you know what that son of a bitch did? He got up and thanked me. He thanked me. I'm going like, are you freaking kidding me? I just killed you, and you're thanking me. He goes, hey, we're all going to get a little better, baby. We're all going to get a little better. And I'll tell you what, man, I've had some great characters and friends that I've met with and that I've played with. I couldn't have adored any more. I don't think I would go back and change any of that.
I appreciate you joining us here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG, Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls and NFL Alumni Association. Our proud partner, C.H. Vallos and Associates, here in the house, man, another proud partner of the show. We could go on telling stories for days.
We could go on for a long time, but I got to tell you what.
With one more.
Let me finish with one thing here, and that is my boy, my main man, TJ, is doing a great job, and he's educated, he's knowledgeable, and he's insightful with the people that he deals with that are people that have a history. And he does his homework with the high school kids and everything else. Couldn't be more proud of my son. Just want to shout out to him that I love him. He's my main man. He's my best friend in life.
Love you too, man. Hey, listen, you talked about some of the legendary figures you got to be around. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong here. Did you give Joe Montana his first snap in a preseason game, NFL game, or were you playing guard?
Jeez, I don't know that.
Joe Montana.
I don't know that.
There's a chance that maybe one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. A lot of people say that Tom Brady has surpassed him. That maybe the first snap he ever took in the NFL could have been from you.
Yes, but let's talk about something else. You know what? You know where Joe Montana was born?
PA.
Monongahela, PA. I was born outside of Philadelphia, PA. We were both born on June 11th, 1956. We're the same age, same state. He went to Notre Dame. I went to Michigan. We end up at San Francisco together. I'm his center. And bottom line is, we got the same birth date, same state, everything, man. I mean, who knows that? Who knows that?
Right. Who
knows that?
It's hard to imagine how the stars align like that for it to happen. But what a story it is, and what a time it was for the NFL, and all that you guys did for it. Okay, we're going to finish with one here. We talked about this with Mike Ken. We talked about this with Irving Fryer. Irving Fryer and the Patriots, they lost to maybe the greatest defense. Most will say the greatest defense of all time in Super Bowl 20, the Chicago Bears in 1985. You had a chance to play against the Bears in Soldier Field. You talk about a guy like Hacksaw, who may not have been the biggest mass, the biggest body out there. But you play against Mike Singletary. And even talk about the sweetness. Talk about sweetness. I remember always a story you talked about that it was almost like seeing Hacksaw at breakfast thinking, shit.
All right, yeah.
And you see him. What did he do? He took his shirt off.
TJ.
And he went across the field and
let me tell you this. When you shared the field on the day before the game. And so we flew into town and we got into Chicago. And so we come to the stadium and Chicago is finishing up their practice. We come in there. Walter Payton took his shoulder pads off. He took his shirt off. As we were coming in, and he did this deliberately, he went, and the football field had a crown on it for water drainage with the
inside of Soldier Field.
On side of Soldier Field. He goes in on the one sideline into a handstance. And he walks across the field on his hands. Goes to the other side, he turns around, and he comes back. He gets over the crown on the other side, and he bounces up. Shoulders, triceps, biceps, just bulging. And he was known for his shoulder hits.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, man, you looked at that and you got scared.
You think Ronnie Lott was scared?
No. Ronnie never got scared about nobody.
But you said that was a ploy, though. Walter Payton's
it was
doing
a ploy.
That because he's trying to get
Rodder
these guys'
was
heads.
trying to do something. But Ronnie Lott, Bobo, my man Bobo, hey, you
don't fear no man.
You ain't taking nothing away from him, baby. This mother, he come up in the linebacker guard tackle and knock the living shit out of somebody, and he's a safety or a corner. Ronnie was bad. Hey, and everybody knows the story about him getting his finger cut off so he could play in the coming game. They wanted to pin it and do all this, and he goes, well, I'm going to miss the game. What do I need to do? They said, well, there ain't nothing we could do except cut it off. He said, well, cut it off.
Wow.
Hey, Ronnie was one of the greatest players I ever played with. I could tell you stories about me and Ronnie. I mean, Ronnie and I, we were like that. He knows me.
We're going to touch on that one day.
We're going to touch another day on that. I'm just having a great time talking with my son right now.
We're going to reach out, and we're going to talk to, you talk about legendary feats in the NFL. You got Dwight Hicks, you got Carlton Williamson, you got Ronnie Lott, you got Eric Wright, all starters in the Pro Bowl for the NFC. It's never been done.
Never been done.
Will never be replicated.
4 defensive backs, first team All-Pro in the Pro Bowl.
I don't think you'll ever see something like
never
that again.
Never said. My boy Dwight Hicks was the leader of them.
Finish me off here, man. We asked Mike. Is that the toughest defense? I believe the Falcons had gotten beat like 36-0, and the following week in '85 was the game where Miami Dolphins probably should have beaten. Well, they did. They were able to clip the Bears. Bears go on to win the Super Bowl. Regardless, Mike Singletary. I mean, when everybody sees the pictures and hears him, he's talking this way. I like this kind of party, and he's got the goggles on. When you're sitting there and you see that guy and you get down into your stance, and you're thinking, okay, here again is probably one of the baddest dudes to ever line up and play the game of football. But you know that you're confident in yourself. But it's a long afternoon seeing that defense across from you, right? Dan Hampton, Richard Dent, Mike Singletary. Is that the greatest defense that you ever saw?
Yeah, it was one of the greatest outside of the Niners.
Okay, all right.
Outside of our Niners, they were a great one. Now, let me tell you something. I'm at center, starting at center, and we're in Soldier Field, and it's raining outside, and it's like 26 degrees. It's like a slushy on the field. Okay, so my uniform that I had on, I didn't wear hip pads or a jock strap. I mean, I wore a jock strap, but I didn't wear a cup.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got
and most guys don't in the game of football.
No, they don't. You wouldn't imagine that you would get hit that much. Okay, so I got a jock strap on, no hip pads, and my football pants and stuff. So I'm over center, and we're in Chicago. We're in Soldier Field, and we've got to play to the right side of the field. So I got to step to the front side defensive tackle, and then depending on what he does, I come up on the middle linebacker, which is Mike Singletary. Well, I take a step forward, and it's like a slushy out there. I come up there, and I get a little bit too much in front of Singletary, and he wraps me with the right and drives me into the ground, and I get a slushy up my butthole. Now, I want to tell you what, man. You know what? How are you going to react from that? You either going to say, take me out of the game, or I'm going to get tough. Well, I got tough. And that slushy wasn't going to slow me down. We ended up winning that game, and I'll tell you what, man, I was trying to hit that sucker any way that I could outside of that. But when he gave me that enema, I was about ready to say, cut it off, man. He was a bad dude. And Hampton, oh, what a big-ass crazy mother that was.
Hey, listen, next time, take the hacksaw approach and just tell him thank you.
Thank
you. Walt Downing, my dad, joining us on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG.
Love you guys. Thank you much for everything, and I love you.
Mike Munson joins us here on the 1372 show. You were sitting with Tim one day. A bunch of you guys were sitting around, and I want to say this is probably 10, 11 years ago. And I get a call from Tim. You guys are sitting there, and he's like, you know what? I need to get a jersey of yours, and I want to put it on the wall. And I'm like, sure, whatever you need, man. I got it. And all the legendary memorabilia that is inside of this place, we're proud of it, but none of it compares to the stuff that's up there for number 15. Your dad, Thurman Munson, the iconic memorabilia that's in here. We got one sitting here right in front of us. I mean, just the career that he had. I know how proud you are, and we know how tragic it was losing your dad, but, I mean, the lasting legacy that he left, how special is that to you?
What's up, TJ? Yeah, it's really cool. What I love too is Tim. You know, he put all these pictures up. Obviously, it's a great tribute to him. I've known Timmy a long time, and not as long, but we've come very close too. And yeah, the tribute is just awesome. You know, I come in here every time. It makes me smile looking at all these pictures, and it's a special place. Like you said, all the pictures are really cool on the wall. I mean,
Yeah.
all the players have had such great, and the Stark County athletes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's so cool about it. I think people forget sometimes how great the athletes came out of Stark County are.
Yeah, one of the fun things for us here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. I'm rolling solo here today. My partner Jim Ballard, he's down with the sickness, man. He's out with COVID, so we're wishing him some prayers. Get back up on your feet soon, partner. We'll see you soon here. The Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls, the NFL Alumni Association, they're proud partners of ours. And we typically are inside of the press box, somewhere on the grounds, shooting our show on a weekly basis, bringing in some great guests. We love the content we've been able to give to the people. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of them. Check out the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. But today, being inside of Harmons Pub, one of the things that we've tried to do, Mike, is we want to get out into the community and put a spotlight on some of these places. We were out at the Quarry with our good friend Jamie Howe. You know, we brought Ann Graffis, the Executive Vice President of Public Affairs over there at the Hall of Fame Village. Got her out there on that patio, how beautiful it is, the 18th green right back there. I mean, how many times we sat out there and had fun and just sat there and, oh, watch this guy. He's coming in from about 90 yards. Oh, watch out. One's coming up on the patio at us, you know. Just a great scene. To me, when you look at this place, Harmons Pub, and I thought about this today, and I didn't know how you would feel if I mentioned this, but this is one of the greatest sports bars in North America. When you think about the people that are on the walls out there and what this place has done inside of the community, Tim has always been there, along with yourself, to help me with our charitable events, giving back to people, but this place has been a staple around here.
I totally agree. Yeah, this is it's funny, too. You know, it was welcoming from the first day I came in. I mean, it was 20-some years ago. Just a great place. And the people here, I mean, just sitting out there, you walk in, you know 25 people.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all those same type of people that want to do for the community. They're just great people. I mean, you know, as far as Canton goes, for me, it is a legendary bar. I mean, it's a great bar, great owners, great staff. It's a great place.
Let's shout out your place, too, Tugboats, named after your pops, man, over there at Meadow Lake Golf Course. Make sure you stop out and check out Mike and his phenomenal staff over there at Tugboats. Great food, great drinks, great people. But here today inside of Harmons Pub, as we talked about all those different pictures on the wall, and even our good friend John Pacone, I believe it's like his grandfather, his uncle or something, Guido. Hey, it's a boxing picture. You know, we got the football pictures, we got the baseball stuff, we got basketball, we got all these different guys. You got this guy over there. He's hitting them so hard, he's knocking them out the side of a ring, and his body is like horizontal to the ground. I mean, you know, so some of the great pictures that are on the wall, the memorabilia. But we're here talking to you now, talking about your dad, Thurman. We know you were just speaking at the Hall of Fame Luncheon Club, where it was the scholarship committee.
Yep.
Talk about the Thurman Munson Scholarship Committee, where you guys are at, what you do, how people can get involved, and where they need to go to get you guys.
Yeah, we started about 2 years ago now. We did a little Catcher's Scholarship Award. Tim Haverstock and Steve Fettman from around here came to me, and we had some contingent from the Thurman Munson fan page also that had mentioned this, wanting to do something like this too. So it's a scholarship award we give to senior catchers from Stark County, a girl, softball player and a baseball player. And we base the award generally on character. Is the biggest part of the award is character. And the accolades are great. If you're great player and all that stuff, that's great too. But we send questionnaires out to all the coaches, and we want to hear feedback of why him, like why your catcher, not just because statistically he's leading the league in hitting, or something like that. We also want to know, like, what does he do? What makes him different on your team than other players? And why would he be more fitting than other catchers in the league? Things like that. And we've been so lucky that the character of the kids that have won the last 2 years has just been, it's been unbelievable. We have a dinner every year for it. Usually it's in June. Last year we had Ron Bloomberg speak from the Yankees, and this year we are.
I was there. That was fun.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? It was a really nice night.
Other than I think Mayor Burnaby of Canton was a little scared.
Yeah.
About 3/4 of the way through, Bloomberg went in on him.
Ron jumped on him pretty good. Oh, my gosh, yeah. And when Ron gets talking, he can keep talking.
Now, I think the point was made, because talk about everything they're doing at the stadium here.
Oh, my gosh.
To me, we both are proud graduates of Glen Oak High School. We're Golden Eagles for life. Playing under legendary coach Joe Gilhausen. When you were in school, when I was in school, if you're on the baseball team, it was a goal to play in Thurman Munson Stadium, because you knew you were going to be playing for like a district or sectional title. And then it was on to state from there, which you guys won 94, 95, or 95, 96, back-to-back state titles.
95, 96, yeah.
Shout out our boy Eric Musey, always hooking us up, athletic director over there at Green High School. What a run their high school football team had this year.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal was to get to that stadium. And maybe some of the sentiments that, and really J.R. Rinaldi has been a guy that's been in the corner and really backed this thing and got after it. But I think Ron came in, and he came a little half-cocked on Mayor Burnaby there, but it was like, hey, there needs to be something for this guy, this legend, the first captain since Lou Gehrig.
Yeah. Yep.
Talk about the stadium down there, man. It's looking great. You see all the pictures on Facebook. They're rolling out the carpet.
I know.
Man, that's going to be really special for the McKinley baseball team too, right?
Gosh. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, they. I've heard. So I've seen the pictures, which I'm just so excited about. My mom is really, really excited about it. I can't wait to see the finished product. And like you said, JR has been great. He's been in contact with me 3 or 4 times, just let me know, what they're doing and what they're thinking, things like that. And he's just the whole thing is so exciting for our family. It really is. I cannot wait to see the when the project's done. I'm really excited about it.
Mike Munson joining us here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG, live inside of Harmons Pub. All right, man. Here we're with the Hall of Fame here in Canton, but let's talk about Cooperstown. We got to. It's the we'll call it the elephant, right?
Yeah.
It's outside of Pete Rose. This to me is the second elephant in Major League Baseball. There's been a push. I know that there's certain rules of length of a career to be able to be eligible. I know that going back to maybe a guy like, and I'm going to get this wrong here, he was a legendary pitcher for the Cleveland Indians back in the day. They made an exception. He passed away from an illness. He was young, and I'm drawing a name. I keep thinking of Tris Speaker, but it's not Tris Speaker. What needs to happen to get your dad into the Hall of Fame? Is that something that will be budged on? Will it be moved on? How can you not make an exception for what happened? And obviously his credentials, compare it to the other catchers that are in the Hall of Fame, he's right there.
He is. And generally speaking, the 2 things you hear are one, sports writers and him didn't see eye to eye, and number two, his career was cut so short. 2023, he's up on the the ballot again, and it'll be all sports writers voting again, obviously. And we've gotten some really good feedback. There's a big push from New York as well as from here. People have been great. I think there's a chance in 2023. I really do. It's been a nice push. They've come out with some nice statistical packets on MLB channel and ESPN that have shown that, analytics nowadays favor him being in the Hall of Fame, which is that's a big thing. Analytics now is, as you know, is a big thing now. And analytically speaking, baseball-wise, he's top 10 in, 8 of the categories. I mean, he's shown out very well as far as that goes. So we'll see. I can tell you, there's no one pulling harder than my mom and I and my family. So we'll see. I really am. It's the first time I've ever been. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but it's the first time I've really been excited that there's a solid chance he can get in there.
So I mean, you talk about top 10. Obviously, the other 9 guys, they're in
They're all
Cooperstown.
in. Yeah.
So
I mean, so
it's got to happen. I'm with you, man. Let's push for it. It's gonna happen. I consider I was fortunate enough to have a good short career, but one of the greatest honors of my life was being able to put my name next to Thurman Munson and Todd Blackledge, Tom Weiskopf, Alan Page, Len Dawson, all guys. There was 7 of us from Stark County, Paul Brown being another one that were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. The last one to do it, and I've kind of thought about who might be the next guy to do it. I'm thinking maybe C.J. McCollum's got a good shot. We're wishing him some well wishes. He's coming back from a punctured lung, man. He took a little bit of shot there. So shout out to another one of our Glen Oak Golden Eagle brothers, C.J. McCollum, getting back into the deal. Got his basketball number. Him and Eric retired the other night. So some pretty cool stuff. But to have my name associated alongside those guys, and then for me to do my research and go back and look at some of those iconic pictures, and I think your dad was sliding in there like taking out the second baseman on the cover of Sports Illustrated. When you look back, and I know it's probably a pretty extensive collection. I haven't seen it, but when you look back through the years, through your memorabilia, I mean, what does that spark inside of you, man? When you pick up that, I believe that issue was in like 1976. Was that when they beat the Dodgers?
yes.
I mean, to see that and the World Series rings and the pinstripe jersey, I mean, it's got to spark some feelings, man.
It does. I remember when I was a kid in our house, we had a room, and funny, Tim Roop would know this. My buddy Tim, that obviously owns the place, I'd go in this room, and it was all my dad's, all his MVP trophy, World Series trophy, Gold Gloves, Rookie of the Year. And I would just sit in we called it his office, and I would just sit in there looking at these things like, oh my God, as you get older and you start realizing those things aren't easy to win. I mean, that he had that much, that he did that well, I guess, it's mind-boggling for me, and it's at the same time I'm so proud of something that he, I just wish obviously I wish I would have gotten to see him play, more than just, I get to watch the videos. But yeah, it would have been so cool to see. I mean, obviously, he did it the right way, and, that's a cool feeling for me, a very proud feeling for me.
Coming out of Kent State, just an absolute legend. We talk about, I think maybe where Bloomberg was going, which my thought process is there needs to be a statue erected next, right? We're doing something for Marion Motley. We had, I know J.R. Rinaldi's behind that, R.J. Van Alman's behind that as well. If you're putting one up of Marion Motley, when you talk about iconic figures coming out of Stark County, you got to put Thurman Munson right next to it. We're going to get that done as well as getting him into the Hall of Fame over there in Cooperstown. But how much of him, when you took the field at Glen Oak, did you carry inside?
Oh, it was nonstop. It's one of those things where you never can let down, because the whole time I'm thinking he's watching me.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't like I could slack or, and when I struggled, which in baseball you tend to struggle all the times, it's a tough game. You start thinking, oh my gosh, he's watching, I'm playing like crap out here, things like that. So that was always in my head. It made it a little tough, but at the same token, it also drove me to become a better baseball player than I probably would have become without that.
Right, and you're sitting there probably saying, hey, listen, man, what would Pops would have done,
Exactly.
And it kind of gets you out and gets you moving. Hey, I know one person that did get along and loved your dad, George Steinbrenner. You know the type of man he was and how much respect he had for your pops, the way he carried himself. What do you think he was with the reporters? I mean, did they always kind of labeled him as like a grouch or a grump? I mean, to me, the pictures I see of him, he's in the dugout with his boys. He's laughing or cracking jokes. They're having a good time. Him and Mick and Goose. Did you ever hear stories from people that maybe they just told you he's like, you know what, I just don't like the media, or did he just get a misconception about him?
No, the reputation was earned, to be honest, a little bit. He loved his boys. He's very similar to us as far as that goes. Our group of guys, we're his group of guys. You know, when he had his group of guys over, but he was very close to the best about his life and who he was and personal life, all that stuff. And reporters like to take a little thing and run with it. And my dad didn't like that. So he said, if I don't give him anything, they can't. There's nothing they can. And that's just who he was. He'd always say, go interview. For instance, go interview Reggie. He likes to talk a little more, which is okay. That was Reggie's style. But my dad's wasn't that way. It was, you don't need to talk to me. I'm going to come out here and play the same way every day, whether you come and talk to me or not. So go away. I don't need this. So they were offended by that because he wouldn't give him anything, and that angered him. And he also had a couple altercations with a couple of them. So, I understand the sports writers not loving him, but it's time to drop that and go by the merits of who the man was and how he played the game. That's how I look at it.
Hey, he didn't pull a Dion and dump a Gatorade shower on one of the reporters. there wasn't that, but it's just interesting to hear the stuff you say about him and to think about those players that he played with. Obviously, I mean, the Yankees, the history there, it's unparalleled, right? Another misconception, I was able to watch a show. It was within the last year, but it was Reggie talking about your dad. And everybody knows his celebrity and Mr. October. And I think a lot of people try to say that maybe they didn't get along. Mm-hmm. From what I heard, Reggie, he looked at your dad as like, you know what, this is a guy that took me under his wing. He pointed me in the right direction. And you know what? He expected excellence out of me. And that's what the Yankees got. And a lot of that has to do with your dad.
For sure. I mean, Reggie was a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was a great player. It was for sure blown out of proportion.
And I'm sure if he would say, if you asked Reggie and he said, I'm in the Hall of Fame, then he believes number 15 should be in there right beside him.
Well, I'll tell you a good story about Reggie. When I went to watch him play when he was with the Angels in California. I was very little. I was 9 years old, maybe, something in that neighborhood. And he took me into the locker room, and he said to me, if I ever make it in the Hall of Fame, you're coming.
Wow.
Thurman Munson's son's coming. Now, I'll tell you, this is 100% truth. He called my mom the day he got into the Hall of Fame and said, I always told you Michael's coming. Does he want to come? I mean, so people can say what they want about Reggie, but I don't have that many stories of people that followed through that way.
Wow.
It's something I've always, I just couldn't believe that that happened. It was really cool. So, I mean, like I said, say what you want about Reggie, but he came through when it came to that. And my dad and him got along much better than people think.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said, they were so different that I think people wanted to butt their heads against each other.
Again, it could be reporters just kind of taking something and running with it, something that's not there.
Yeah.
Yep. It's tough to get along with the media at times, but it is what it is. And we know one thing that should be is your dad being in Cooperstown, being in the Hall of Fame alongside all of those greats to play the game of Major League Baseball. Mike Munson, appreciate you joining us on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. We're going baseball today, man. Usually it's football, but we're expanding our horizons, man, here at Harmons Pub, live on the show. Mike Munson joining us. Check out his place, Tugboats Pub, and we'll have more after this. 1372 show, the QB and the OG rolling solo today. No Jim Ballard, still down with the sickness, so we're hoping our partner's back here sooner than later. Shout out to our friends over at the Hall of Fame Village. We're actually out on location today here at Harmons Pub, joined by one of our proud partners, Chris Vallos of CH Vallos and Associates. And Chris, you brought along a guest today. Tell us about her.
I did. So I brought along our associate intern, Zoe Stouffer from Louisville, Ohio. She is a student over at the University of Akron. Funny story how Zoe came aboard with us. She saw me and one of our employees, a new hire that we hired, over at Best Buy, and she was working there, and she saw that, we looked pretty professional apparently, which I don't know why she said that because I don't believe her. But she thought, flat out it'd be a good idea to ask if I was the owner of my company, and I graciously said yes. And she goes, "Well, do you do internships at your company?" I go, "Yeah, we do." And so she goes, "Well, I'm a student at the University of Akron. I'm looking for an internship that fits my major, and was looking forward to meeting her." So I gave her my business card, told her to contact me, and she did, probably on her lunch break a couple hours later. And she's been a great asset to us ever since.
Networking 101, you must have learned that at North Canton Hoover. Did you get that lesson in Donnie Hertler's class?
Oh, Donnie beat me up too much. He didn't give us any lessons. The lessons he did made us sick to our stomachs.
So, Zoe, what's it been like working for C.H. Vallos and Associates so far?
It's been pretty cool. So he's been super generous, let me meet cool people like you and your dad.
Nice.
So yeah.
You got to see a Super Bowl ring today.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to touch one. I'm going to tell all my family. So no, it's been super cool job, learning a lot, lots of fun, like here at Harmons. So yeah, very cool.
How long have you been there now for?
I think this is my 4th week.
And Chris, you guys have been around since about 78 years now in the North Canton community.
78 years, yep.
Everything that you guys have been able to do, giving back, charitable work. Talk about some of those benefits, those fundraisers, those people that you guys have gotten behind, not just in North Canton, but throughout Stark County.
Sure. So being in business for 78 years, we love giving back to our town, our community. My family comes from a history of veterans. We give back to the Patriot Project, which is Dr. Novelli's sponsor, or event that he hosts, which provides free chiropractic care to all veterans serving in non-active duty. And we love going to his event. We give back to our town, our local community regarding football programs, basketball programs, lacrosse programs. Donate to the Make-A-Wish Foundations. We're part of the Yerke Trot, which we're proud to say that Steve Yerke works for us, and he is one of the founders of the Yerke Trot, obviously with the name Yerke Trot, and does a fantastic job, and that provides donations to foundations like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Whisper and Grace Farms, and things of that nature, and it's all good causes. All good causes going to good people who really need it, and especially our veterans. Man, you can't say enough about our veterans, even willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for our country, not knowing any of us, and they're willing to lay down their lives for who we are, the foundations the country believes in. So we love donating to our veterans.
Right. You and I obviously met each other back in high school on the football field and just a game, and football has allowed us, Jim and myself, to have this show. But what those veterans do, what our military does, those are the real heroes out there. With coming on this 1372 show, you became one of our partners. We appreciate having you. Talk about some of your partners that you work with. We know a huge relationship with auto owners. Talk about some of the other people that you guys work with within the insurance business.
So, again, TJ, being in business for 78 years, we've surrounded ourselves with some of the best insurance companies in the industry, whether it's regional, domestic, or national. There's nothing we don't do, whether it's your basic home and auto insurance to international manufacturing companies, large trucking companies, contractors, surety bonds. Nothing that we don't do, and we pride ourselves on doing it the very best. Auto owners actually ranked us top 10 in the state of Ohio the last 2 out of the last 5 years, and they're a Fortune 500 company. So we pride ourselves in being the best. We were awarded the Service of Excellence Award by Hanover Insurance Company, which is another publicly traded company. Within the first quarter of appointing with them, they awarded us that award. So we have auto owners, Acuity, Hanover, Western Reserve, Nationwide, Travelers, Chubb. Nobody really that we don't have or have access to. All of our companies have been great partners. We have State Auto, which is local in Columbus, Nationwide, also local in Columbus. And our job as an insurance agent is to provide our clients with the best protection possible at the best possible price. My job is not to give you the best possible price. My job is to protect you adequately. And if we don't do that, we're of no use to you.
Speak of a proud veteran, I think the back of your neck just got fingered there by James Jinks out of Hutton.
That's
He's
right.
known for hanging out of Huey's over there in Vietnam. 2 tours for Jim Jinks, a good friend of the show, good friend of ours, stopping by to see us. So speaking of doing the job, as you just mentioned, Zoe, talk about some of the tasks that you've had put on your plate since you've joined.
Yeah, so I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything. So right now we're doing marketing. That's my major at Akron. So we were looking at doing some cups the other day, some brochures, looking at that. And then I also have some of my buddies coming into the industry with us to work with us as clients. So handling their accounts and going and doing a bunch of stuff. So a little bit of everything.
All right, here on the 1372 show, Chris Vallos, Zoe joining us. Shout out again to the NFL Alumni Association, the Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls. All right, so before we get you out of here, Zoe, and we bring on Big Brother, that's our big question. That's your hot topic, all right? So since you've joined, you said you've been here about 4 weeks now,
Yep.
right? Who has taken you under the wing more? Has it been Chris or Jimmy?
Definitely Chris. Jimmy's great, good laugh. We like to joke around about getting Dairy Queen every day with Chris. We like to eat some good food, but no, Chris has taught me a lot. We spend pretty much all day, every day. He's teaching me all the inner workings. I get to answer his emails for him, so even type those up. So do everything, yeah.
It's great stuff. Zoe, we appreciate you joining us on
Thank
the
you.
1372 show, the QB and the OG. We will be back with more after this. Joined by our proud partners, CH Vallos and Associates. Now we got Zoe off the microphone. We pick up with Big Brother, Jimmy. We got a chance to kind of hear from Zoe, some of the daily operation stuff. We talked with Chris about some things that you guys have done as a company within the community, giving back, which is really what it's all about, paying it forward. Being around for 78 years, the legacy that your father has kind of bestowed upon you guys, what he started and you guys have carried on. Talk about what it means, Jimmy, to have a dad like that and how he's kind of mentored you and your brother and brought you guys along.
One thing, excuse me, one thing I can say for certain is all boils down to being fortunate.
Yeah.
We definitely had a easier time getting into the business, although we started from the ground up. My brother and I definitely had a starting foundation, so to speak, to build off of. Doing that, it was, it's the work ethic that goes with it, and you work hard, continue to grow in the right ways, grow by, new business. You grow by having good employees and having yourself surrounded in tight circles with good people, as well as community involvement, which we strongly believe in and strongly support. Our veterans, our first responders, the whole 9 yards with that. It's all that's left to do is work hard and make it a success. So.
Vice Presidents of CH Vallos and Associates, Jimmy Vallos and Chris Vallos joining us here on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. All right, man, let's switch topics. You have a daughter. She is now in her first year in college, I believe playing volleyball.
Yes.
How has that whole process been for her?
Everything's going good with her right now. She held out on the volleyball for the first year because she was a little timid, didn't know, being that she's going in, wants to go be a doctor and get into the medical profession. She held out on volleyball a little bit and, wanted to see how the college was going to go. Obviously, her grades go before anything. So, and from there, she's finding it was a good success and that she is going to enter volleyball in her sophomore season. So, she's attending St. Vincent College, or will be attending St. Vincent College, and which is the home of. I know you Browns fans don't want to hear it. My Pittsburgh Steelers. So got to throw that out there. In which there was a cousin of the Rooney family, obviously the same last name, that was a senior partner within our agency prior to my father owning it. So and buying it out. So a very interesting story, but tight roots to the Pittsburgh community, tight roots to the Cleveland community. I mean, you got two great cities, and with nothing but promise ahead of them. So best wishes to both teams for that matter. So
All right, listen, even though we're here live at Harmons Pub, you're safe. We're in Canton, we're in Ohio, so you don't have to worry because this is part of the NFL Alumni Association, Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls. So all teams are welcomed here. Steelers,
Absolutely.
Steelers are
absolutely.
welcome, man. Shout out to my former teammate, winning Super Bowl MVP for you guys, Santonio Holmes, friend of the show, man. We're going to have him on
Absolutely.
coming up here in a few weeks.
Got it.
We were just talking about what you guys get behind there with Dr. Novelli and the Patriot Project. We see another one of our proud veterans just walking past us here, Rick Jacobson, former owner of Buckeye Security, Buckeye Protective. He's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes, kind of talking about what he did over there with the Enshrinement Festival, running security for almost 15 years. But again, another proud veteran and proud partners of our show here, C.H. Vallos and Associates. Chris, being proud. Talk about being a proud uncle, man. I mean, what's it like watching your niece grow
Proud uncle, man.
and being an athlete as you were, a superior athlete over there at North Canton Hoover?
Sure. So
We're going to underline that word superior, too.
A little asterisk.
you know, being a proud uncle, man, it's special. You know, I gotta say, watching my niece grow up, it was a special time, special moment. You know, as my brother and I were both athletes in North Canton Hoover, watching my niece grow up and watching his daughter grow up, it was incredibly special watching her carry on the torch that we're all trying to carry on, keeping our legacy going in the Vallos name. You know, watching her play on the same courts. You know, watching her. One of the first things that I ever did for my niece was she asked Uncle Chris, she goes, "Can I wear your football jersey to one of our football games?" And she was in 7th grade, and I gave her my football jersey, and I'm pretty sure I still haven't gotten it back. But, you know, that was the last girl to ever wear my football jersey. And
Special, man.
It's a special moment, you know, being that it was my niece, and it was watching her, you know, have that football jersey on, and we had a picture together, and that picture's on Facebook, social media, and so many good feelings about it, watching her grow up and turn into the woman she is today. She has inspired us all in a lot of different ways, whether it's her work ethic, whether it's her ethic on a volleyball court, whether it's her desire to be a cardiologist, which she's so deeply involved in, going to medical school. I mean, hell, she dropped out of volleyball to, you know, focus on her studies because she was kind of timid about, you know, playing volleyball and going to med school and going to be a cardiologist.
It's a lot on your plate.
Sure is. It's, you know, 3 jobs. You know, volleyball, work, and going to school. I mean, it's a lot of work. So we learned a lot from her as well. I mean, you know, it's humbling too to watch a young lady grow up in our family, because my family, you know, we grew up with 2 boys. My parents raised Jimmy and myself very well, did the best they possibly could. I like to think we turned out all right.
If we don't shout out Stella, we're going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah,
if
right?
we don't give Stella a shout out, we're getting cold for Christmas. So
Christmas coming up next week. Nobody wants coal in their stocking when they wake up on Saturday morning. Tell people where they can find you guys at. We know that I believe 1200 Main Street.
1302 South Main Street, North Canton.
Where can people find you online at? And I know Zoe was over here taking some pictures of you guys, social media, stuff like that.
Go to our Facebook page, C.H. Vallos and Associates. Our website is chvallosinsurance.com. Just stop in, say hi. You know, we have a hands-on approach to all of our clients, whether it's, you know, again, a basic home and auto insurance client or a large manufacturing client, trucking company. We insure some of the largest clients in the country. So whether it's trucking, whether it's contractors, whether it's distributorships, nothing we don't do. Stop in, say hi. If you have a question, at the end of the day, you're getting the right advice.
Right.
You know, and that's what we pride ourselves on. So.
Yeah, and again, being proud from where you're from, being in the North Canton community. Jimmy, I mean, you know, he talked about it. You guys both went to school there.
Yep.
Your business is there. What does that community mean to you?
The world.
Everything.
Yeah.
It really does. Our cousins went there, our first cousins. Then along came myself, and I went there and played ball and in 2 different sports, and you know, then watched my brother play and come up through the system. Now my daughter, obviously, she graduated high school last year, and means everything. I mean, great education, great community, tight-knit community, as every community should be, and most are. I mean, obviously, you get you get some that need a little bit of work, but that's okay. You get the right people there, get the right people into your community, and it all starts with the people. The people are the foundation of your surroundings. So
Heard that somewhere before. I think it was a guy by the name of Jim Tressel. He always said, you win with people, right?
absolutely.
You got good people in your corner, you're going to be able to get it done. Talking about Steve Yerke and what he's able to do. He's worked for you guys for a long time and get it done. So think about the Yerke Trot as we come up here next year.
Absolutely. Great organization.
And donate, I believe you said that's Whispering Grace Farms.
That's
Yes.
What they're associated with. So love to see people getting back behind all the different things throughout the community. And obviously we thank you from the 1372 show, the QB and the OG, on behalf of myself, Jim Ballard, the Hall of Fame Village powered by Johnson Controls, and the NFL Alumni Association for being our proud partners here.
And we appreciate it, TJ.
Absolutely, DJ. Thank
Chris
you very
Vallos,
much for
Jimmy
having us.
Vallos, Vice Presidents of CH Vallos and Associates, joining us here on the 1372 show. More.